Hello and welcome back to another episode of our podcast, where we bring you the stories and experiences of accomplished legal professionals from around the world. Today, we are thrilled to have with us Mr. Varun Chablani, an award winning tax strategist and educator with a wealth of expertise in international and corporate tax law. Sir is currently a senior associate at EMLTC in Dubai, where he provides end to end tax advisory services across the GCC, specializing in corporate tax, VAT, transfer pricing, and customs. With a career spanning jurisdictions such as India, Mauritius, and the UAE, he has successfully navigated complex tax litigation, strategy, and compliance matters, delivering significant financial savings for clients. An accomplished academic, Mr. Chablani holds an Advanced LL.M. in International Tax Law from the University of Amsterdam and a BCom LLB from Gujarat National Law University. His thought leadership is reflected in his numerous publications on cutting edge tax issues, including VAT, GST, and the taxation of virtual assets. Beyond his professional achievements, he has contributed to the development of tax education through training programs and guest lectures at GNLU. In this episode, we'll delve into his journey, the intricacies of global tax systems, and his advice for navigating the ever evolving landscape of tax law. Let's welcome Mr. Varun Chablani to the show. Hello and welcome, sir, to Project LLM Brief Encounters podcast. It's an honor having you here. So, this is the question that we ask all our guests. What inspired your decision to pursue law as a career? How did this happen?
Okay, the starting point is very funny, so I hope you don't mind. So this was in class 10 or class 11, right? And the teacher at that time had said that, hey, you really gotta, learn, you gotta read the newspaper every day. So the newspaper that used to come to my house was the Hindu, right? Quite a boring newspaper, but very informative. Right, and I was fully aware of current events and stuff like that. At that time, the late Manmohan Singh ji was the Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh ji at that time.
Right.
So things were good. Now I needed to go back from my school to my house, and I had 10 rupees in my hand, which was something back then. Now it's nothing, of course. But how would you know? You've been in Dubai all your life.
Yeah.
10 rupees, by the way, is less than 1 dirham, half a dirham.
I've heard, my parents have talked about it. My parents have the value of, you'll never understand the value of the rupees. Yeah.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
Yeah.
So the front page of the newspaper was petrol import duty cut down, and somehow I actually convinced the auto wala while holding the newspaper in my hand. Look at this, because he can no longer say that petrol is expensive because it's there in the front page of the paper.
Right.
And somehow he agreed to it. At that moment, I knew law is what I need to do. Because at that time, I understood, that information that you have about the laws, about the updates, stuff like that is very, very useful.
Right.
And yeah, that's how I stuck to it.
Wow, I think that's a very unique story. I mean, I've heard people say, I got inspired from a show, I got inspired from my parents, but having a real life experience proving to you that you're made to be a lawyer, I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then when we did the moot in the first semester,
Right.
the first really art of lawyering, so to speak, that we get exposed to.
Right.
Right? You remember in the first semester, the moot memorial that we make is kind of horrible, but the thought process that you get in making that memorial, which you think is really good for your level out there,
Right.
then I was like, yeah, I mean, it kind of confirmed that I'm in the right profession.
That's great. I think an organic growth, something of that sort, where you grow to love the, profession. I think that's absolutely
Oh,
amazing.
yes. And I
So,
hope you also grow second year or all the way through fifth year. And since you're with Project LLM all the way to, doing your LLM and going
for
wherever
sure.
you need to go, and in the practice of your law, you will also love the subject more and more.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
It's like a good relationship. The longer you stay, the better it gets.
That is very true. The more you learn, also.
Yeah, true.
So, you completed your undergrad studies at GNLU, one of the premier law
Yeah.
colleges of our country, and now still growing. What influenced your decision to choose GNLU for your legal education, especially coming from Chennai? How did you navigate the cultural transition? Did this experience play a role in preparing you for your future challenges?
Right, so we didn't have CLAT at that time. We have CLAT now, of course. And in fact, so we had to individually apply to all the universities.
Right.
So the standard answer is I didn't get through NLS, NALSAR, NUJS, and who else was there? NLIU. I didn't get through those, so therefore the next best.
Okay, okay. Well, GNLU is
So,
above NLIU now. So
thank you. I
positive.
wasn't aware of
It's a
that.
positive thing right now. Great, great. So, was there any cultural transition problems for you when you went shifted to GNLU from Chennai?
Not at all. No.
Okay, that's
My
great to hear.
friends.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because some people do face that problem shifting from south to a little bit of north. They have that problem. But it's great
Yeah,
that you were
I
able to
understand.
adapt to the
Mm.
situation.
Mm.
So, taxation as an area of law, from what I've talked to people, is quite niche. It's something that most people do not like to venture into because of the common maths nahi pasand hai. That's why we enter into law. So, taxation is an area of interest. And how did it grow for you? How did it evolve during your academic and professional journey?
Riya, take a guess of how many times in the past 1 year I've actually opened the calculator.
I'm not sure. The number would be huge, I'm assuming. Once. Oh, wow.
I have used the calculator a grand total of once.
Oh,
उतना maths नहीं है tax में.
oh, that's
And
surprising to know.
even the basic maths is there is basically plus minus into percentage, you know, 8th
But
standard. Yeah, yeah.
wow, that's surprising.
So none of the calculus, trigonometry, none of the stuff that actually scares people, the exponents, none of the complicated stuff.
That's
What
surprising.
is a little bit complicated is accounting principles. For example, when do you book an income?
Right.
When do you book an expense? That is something that's not taught in law
Hmm.
and not beyond a point, certainly. But the process of thinking about how an accounting treatment is done is actually very similar to the process of thinking of how a legal position is taken,
Right.
right? So, therefore, there is actually not that much difference between law and accounting.
That's a major.
Yeah, yeah. It's actually, see, if you look at an accountant, he thinks differently from a lawyer,
Right.
a qualified accountant and a qualified lawyer, because an accountant by default thinks in terms of, okay, so this is the profit, this is the revenue, so therefore, what's the profit percentage? What's the EBITDA? How much cash flow you're getting? What a lawyer thinks is what is your rights and obligations with respect to a transaction.
Makes
But
sense.
they are kind of connected because if you have very strong rights in your transaction, that means that there's more chance of your company being profitable
Makes sense.
and therefore your stronger balance sheet. So it's not that much of a difference.
Right. So, for you personally, was it always an area of interest or did it evolve over time?
No, no, I hated tax in the beginning. And then what had happened was, yeah. And then randomly I got a call for an interview at Lakshmi Kumar and Sridharan. So what I did was I went to, the Sujata law series, thin books that you get, which
Right,
we all
right,
study
right.
on the last day of the exam.
Yeah,
So, let's be honest here.
it's true. It's true.
And so outside the High Court building, you have these guys who deliver these second hand, where people underline and stuff like that. So some college kid who wants to make extra money.
Right.
So that I picked up and literally that's what I read for the interview. And I
Oh,
got through, I've been in tax since.
my God. Wow.
Hmm.
That's amazing. So, like you mentioned, you worked in LKS after graduating from GNLU. After around 7 years of professional experience, what were the factors that motivated you to pursue an overseas?
So that's the stage at which I had enough money to either buy a house or to do an LLM.
Right.
Not buy a house fully, but buy on EMI. Still wasn't that rich. But
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't have a house yet. So I think you know which thing.
All right. Yeah. And we're
So
sitting on Project, so I'm assuming
yep.
it was
Yeah.
the.
So at that time I decided to apply to a few universities. One of them was University of Amsterdam, and that's when
That's great. So, like you mentioned, you studied from University of Amsterdam in for advanced LLM in international tax law. What were your other universities like? How did you finally narrow down on this university on this particular course?
okay. So I skipped the US completely.
Okay.
I skipped Canada completely.
Any
I
particular
was
reason?
focused. So the family was like, Donald Trump, don't go there, those kind of things.
Makes sense.
But maybe my life might have been different had I looked at North America.
Okay.
But honestly, Canada didn't have the programs I was looking for. So I was limited to UK, even though Brexit was also fresh off the bat at that point. Continental Europe, so in that, Netherlands and Austria. So the three
Okay.
universities in Netherlands that I applied to, and eventually I went down to University of Amsterdam.
That's great. That's great to know.
Yeah.
So, crafting a compelling SOP is very crucial for your master's application. How did you approach writing this? How much time did it take? Any advice that you focused on, or any elements that you would like to emphasize upon that helped you through?
I'll forward you my SOPs, my motivation letters, my letters of recommend. I have a Google Drive. I'll just
Right.
forward that. You
Wow,
can just
that's
have a look at
amazing.
it,
Thank you.
and you can share it with your community. Not a
Okay.
problem.
All right.
Yeah.
So how did the process go about? How was the process of crafting this SOP?
So it was simple, nothing too complicated. It's just that something I need to explain about what is motivating me for being a student, for being a candidate in that university. Let me tell you that the SOP for the actual admission is not a big deal. The big
Okay.
deal is SOP for scholarship, which unfortunately I didn't crack.
Oh, I understand.
Because that's where your real credentials matter in terms of. So if the SOP for your admission is here, your SOP for scholarship is here.
Oh my God.
Because as a straight talk, if you are good enough, if you have the money, they'll accept this. But
Mhm.
if you want their money, you gotta be this.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Sense. Yeah. Makes sense.
So how you do an SOP for a scholarship is actually normally people on Project LLM would have said that you gotta prepare, 6 to 9 months, maybe 12 months, in advance for an. That's correct. If you want a scholarship, you'd probably have to prepare years before.
Wow. So,
Because you'll have to make those networks, you'll have to get yourself out there, you'll have to make sure that you are in the right circle, which gives you the opportunities outside of your regular rank and file work that you do, and how you are a thought leader in the field that you're looking for, whichever field you want to do an LLM in,
right.
and then how that thought leadership actually benefits the university. It's no longer at this level, it's no longer about why you want it. It's about what's in it for them. At this level, it's about why you want it because you're going to pay for it anyway. So
Makes
just
sense.
take it.
Makes sense. You mentioned about how networking, making a network when it comes to drafting an SOP for scholarship. That's very important. Could you give a little more details about that? Because I think that's something people don't usually talk about, but it is quite important.
I've actually posted something today in the morning
Okay.
on LinkedIn in my newsletter about that. So you can just have a look. In short, what's happening is that most people think that networking is going to a conference, shaking hands with someone, and tapping in your business card.
Right.
That's not networking. That's what people think it is. What really it is how you create a win-win situation with having the other person's focus first at heart.
Makes sense.
And the best example for that itself is Project LLM in terms of how streamlined the whole process has been in coordinating with me and reaching out and explaining the technicals and stuff.
That's great. Thank you. That's
So
great.
in that process, you're making me feel good, and then in return, I would feel like doing the same back to you.
We're glad to hear
So
that.
thank you. So so networking is all about give and take, but the focus is not on the taking, it's on the giving.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
And the more you do of that over and over and over again, the more you're going to be more known in your field. You're going to be more in touch with the thought leaders and the industry leaders of your field. The more insights you will get from people who are 20 years senior to you and who have the bird's eye view of what you're looking at yourself in the second year, or someone who's just fresh out of law school.
Right.
And thereby, the more insights you get, the better quality of your application.
I think that's great information to know. We'll get back to networking in a little while because I think that's very, very important, crucial in any law student's life. But our next question is about recommendation letters. Along with SOP, recommendation letters play a very important role in the application process. Now, considering that you had left the academic scenario after it had been quite a long time, how did you go about getting your recommendations? Did you go back to certain college professors or did you focus on your professional network?
No, I'm still with the university. I'm a guest lecturer. Yeah, that helped. That helped. So
Okay,
still
great.
good relationships, and that was easy.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
No problem.
One question that I wanted to add here is that some people have an organization that help them in their entire process, application process. Some people do it on their own. What was your experience like, and which one do you think is better, or what's your stance on that?
I did it on my own. I
Okay,
think that's fine because you have control over it.
makes sense. Makes sense.
I mean, come on, you're already a lawyer and you're trying to do an LLM. You gotta have brains to do it on your own. You have to
That
do
is very true. That is very true. That is very true. And they're
what you
expensive.
they're
Those courses
expensive.
are
What you
expensive.
can do if you want to, you know, invest your resources on something better, what you can do is spend money on in terms of memberships.
Okay.
like IFA and all the other organizations that are there,
Right.
that's a better place to invest.
That is true. That is true.
But the application itself, by the time you are clear about this is what I want to study, this is where I want to study, this is why I want to study this, because this is a professor, this is the job I can get after that, this whatever it may be. When you're clear about what you want, just apply on your own, yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So, what made the Advanced LLM program at the University of Amsterdam specifically stand out? Could you elaborate on how your experience in college was? Was there any specific aspects that you found particularly rewarding?
Okay. So what I will also be doing is I will be sharing a Google Drive of my college material.
Wow, I think that's
The
great.
slides that you
Yeah,
download and everything.
right.
So that Google Drive is on open access. That also I'll share.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for all these resources.
So anyone who's thinking about it, so obviously the information is updated now because the law also changes since then.
Of course.
But at least in terms of how you look at the material, I'll be happy to share.
That's great. That's great.
Then if you think, or if any audience thinks that that's the right university for them, then they can do that or just reach out to me.
That's amazing. So, but why did this particular program in University of Amsterdam stand out for you? What was so special about it that you chose it?
Okay. So the advantage of this program is that there was another program in Leiden which unfortunately was cancelled.
Oh, okay.
But the professors of that program moved in here.
Oh, interesting.
And there was actually it was a LLM program that is coordinated in collaboration with this organization known as the IBFD, which is the International Bureau for Fiscal Documentation. It's called the home of tax. It provides tax research services, provides knowledge support, provides academic services, provides government support services, so on and so forth.
Wow.
Netherlands-based organization. So this particular program, now the collab is over, but the collab was there at that time, which means that having graduated from there, I have a direct access to the network and knowledge base of the university and of IBF.
True.
So if I need to hit up somebody and say that, hey, ask them something or get their ideas about something, now I can do that easily.
Right. So it's sort of like a hand holding. It's given to you in a silver plate.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's amazing. So navigating through such a prestigious LLM program often comes with its unique challenges, shifting your life, going to Netherlands, living there. Could you share any challenges that you faced and what incoming candidates can prepare themselves to better deal with such challenges?
Honestly, it won't be that difficult.
Okay.
It won't be that difficult. One thing, though, you gotta pay attention to. You need to stop thinking in rupees.
Yeah.
You need to start thinking in euros right now.
Right.
And that's a little difficult. That mindset shift is a little difficult. But in terms of going there, it's not that much of a difference because it's the same grocery stores that you do your shopping in.
Right.
It's the same library that you do your studies in. But it's not like the LLB kind of a atmosphere wherein, like in LLB, you're all very, very close to each other. You
Yeah.
have a 5-year journey together.
Right.
So you've made your friend circle by now, and with your friend circle, you probably, I don't know, do sports in the evening or go out somewhere, whatever it may be, right? Yeah. Here, it's very autonomous
Makes sense.
because people have actually come with their wives, their spouses, their kids, their girlfriends, whatever it may be. And they already have a long history of work experiences in their countries. So therefore, it actually helps you to, I mean, the one difference is that the classmates that you look from an LLM point of view are kind of more professional, if you know what I mean. The
Yeah, no, makes
classmates
sense.
that you
Yeah.
look at LLB point of view are like your buddies.
Yeah.
So that's the main
The
difference.
age range, the professional experience, everything is very different with your
Yeah,
classmates.
it's
I've
true.
heard, I've heard, I've heard people who, I had another guest on here who was around, I think 25, 26. I think she did hers from Cambridge. And she was telling me that she was meeting people who were like above the age of 60 who were at the LLM.
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think, but that's also a unique experience because you're getting to meet people with like age-old experiences who you can learn from, network with.
That's
So
true.
if you look
True.
at it as an opportunity, I think it's pretty great. It's a great platform to be.
That's true. That's true. The other advantage is that since I'm in Dubai, at some point somebody is actually dropping in over here. It's like if you're in India and you're working in Bombay, some friend of yours has some work in Bombay, he comes over and meets you. Yeah, same logic.
Right. Yeah.
So that way, when we meet, it's kind of like when we speak to my LLB college mate, we speak as if we are like chuddy buddies. When we
Makes sense.
speak to an LLM college mate, we are like, hey, how is the industry in the XYZ sector looking like? It's kind of different.
True. 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 Makes sense. Makes sense. So now many students worry that an LLM in tax law from a foreign university may focus primarily on the host country's jurisdiction, limiting its applicability. So how valid is this concern and how has your experience been with this?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. In fact, the job requirements is the other problem. The job requirements require you to have the knowledge of the local laws, which you will never have because imagine a Dutch guy coming to India and competing with you and NLU Jodhpur grad on their knowledge of local laws.
Yeah.
It actually becomes a lot harder because we did not get that. But our outlook has been purely international,
Okay.
which means that the basic principles can be applied anywhere in the world.
That's
So
great.
this is not a
Great.
concern at all. If at all, the concern was the other way around.
Makes sense. So people would find a difficulty to practice and continue practicing in Netherlands because they don't have the idea of the local taxation.
Yeah, so you can't even get a local law degree from there because that is in the Dutch language.
Okay, that is quite difficult. That
Yeah.
is quite.
And that you need to obviously stay there and then spend many years and do a
Understand.
separate degree, and you'll probably end up being 60 years old and in law school at that time.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So let's talk about your post LLM journey. Presently, you're working at EMLTC, if I'm pronouncing that right, in Dubai. Could you share your post journey beginning from graduation from the LLM to your current workplace?
It was very difficult, Ria. It was a struggle for the past 1 year. For the past 1 year since grad.
Right.
Because thank you very much. I graduated in August 2020.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's COVID.
Yep. Peak COVID, right?
Yeah.
And not only peak COVID in terms of the economy, but
Everything
peak
was crushed.
COVID in terms of the mindset of people. At that time, people all of a sudden withdrew.
Yeah.
They are like, to hell with this, I'm not going to help you. I need to protect myself.
Right.
That was the attitude.
Makes sense.
So I literally had to pick up the pieces and figure out what to do next. So after trying very, very hard for 1 year in the Netherlands, it didn't work out.
Okay.
Post that, I tried the Dubai market and it worked out easily.
Okay.
The first job that I had was literally a lady who added me on LinkedIn. We got on a phone call, we started working. That's simple.
Wow. And then did you shift to Dubai?
2 years ago. So September of 2022.
Okay, great. So you
Yeah.
tried in Netherlands and then you tried to break into the Dubai market and it was easier over here in comparison.
Easy, one phone call.
Wow. Wow.
In Netherlands, I had to send 500 applications, make cover letters, talk to people, which was also difficult because it was COVID, so difficult to
Makes
have a beer
sense.
with people.
Makes sense. So would you say that the Dubai market is easy to crack or would you say that you were lucky in that moment?
It's easy. It's easy.
That's great to know. So what strategies, according to you, can students deploy to increase their chances of getting a job during or after that, since you have learned from that experience and gone through it yourself?
I wish I would have adopted these strategies. I didn't know enough. Yeah, I should have followed Project LLM at that time itself.
Oh my God.
And you
Oh
were
my
in
God.
school, so you were there.
Right, right.
And yeah, Netherlands in general is very difficult to, as a people are very reserved over there. They are friendly in the sense of, having a beer with you or having other consumables, if you know what I mean. But they are not so friendly in terms of opening up to different ideas. They are a bit conservative on that side.
Okay.
Dubai, on the other hand, is very strict on the do's and don'ts.
Mm-hmm.
But they're very open on where it really matters, which is if you want to meet someone, if you want to figure something else out. And just before this recording started, we were talking about the various list of people who you already met
Right.
and other people who you want to meet.
Right.
And you would have noticed how easy that is.
It is relatively.
So, where I struggled, a little bit of luck, but mainly it was on my own. Where I primarily struggled was actually getting the trust of people that they would want to open up. Because for the heck of it, you don't know the language, you don't have a PR, you need a company that is eligible to sponsor you, and you do not know the law as well as what a local. So you already start off a few points below.
That is true.
Right now, I'm talking to people who've just graduated and they are looking for positions, and I tell them this simple fact: choose 5 companies, just 5 companies. Don't look aage piche. This is all you have to choose. Out of these 5, but make sure these 5 companies are open to having you in English, are open to sponsoring you, do the job that you want to do, right? Make sure that your 5 target companies is this. Now use LinkedIn to encircle these 5 companies. Find out everything you need to know about these 5 companies.
Right.
Start posting stuff, start becoming a thought leader with respect to the content that ticks for these 5 companies.
Right.
That's all you need to do. At the end of 3 months, one of those 5 will hire you.
Wow. That's great
3 months,
advice.
6 months.
Wow. That's great advice. So, why did you pick the UAE legal market? Is there a particular reason why you chose this legal landscape?
Because corporate tax has just come in the UAE.
Right.
So it's a
It's a
lot of
very
fun working as a
growing,
tax professional. Yeah.
it's a very growing field.
Yes.
So, how do you see the UAE legal market from the perspective of opportunities for Indian qualified lawyers? Is having
Unlimited.
an Okay, that's great to know. That's great to know. But my question over here also is an LLM degree, from what I've heard, is it a minimum prerequisite to break into the market? And
No, no.
secondly, do they have any sort of inbuilt, or inherent differentiation between a foreign LLM and an Indian LLM?
No, no. You can skip the LLM, do the SQA directly.
Okay, so
SQA
graduate
1, SQA 2.
from the
Yeah.
UK, you mean?
From the UK. So
Okay,
SQA 1, you do it from wherever you are.
right.
SQA 2, I believe there's something in Dubai also that you can do, but I'm not fully sure
Okay,
about that.
okay.
I
So,
believe so.
do you recommend that's quite important?
Yeah, yeah. If you want to actually practice in the DIFC,
Mhm.
and Ria, you can explain what DIFC is,
Right.
or ADGM, then you can actually sign documents within it. But if you want to practice in the local courts over here, you have to be Emirati.
Well, that's a little impossible. It's close to impossible doing that.
Yeah.
Right. So,
So, but if you want in-house legal work, you can do without it.
got it, got it, got it. I think that's important to know. So you provide comprehensive tax advisory services across the GCC. Could you share what unique challenges and opportunities you encounter in this particular role?
The opportunities are unlimited, Ria. I'm telling you, this is an amazing market. And
Wow.
almost on a daily basis, we receive queries that somebody from this country wants to move over here. How do you work the taxes? Or they want to set up a company, or there is already a company and this is an expansion that they want to do.
Right.
How do we make that tax efficient? Very, very interesting work, excellent work, and lots to learn.
Wow, that's quite positive to hear. That's quite
It's a
positive to hear.
wonderful, wonderful work.
Wow. So your professional journey, it spans over roles in India, Mauritius, and the UAE. How has working in different jurisdictions enriched your understanding of taxation law?
Oh, I'm still learning. I'm still learning.
Right.
So who knows, after the UA, it might be somewhere else.
True.
So,
True.
so there's a little bit of a difference between how people in different, you know, organizations look at you. So, for example, when I was in the beginning stages of my career, a lot of emphasis was on core law,
Right.
and I couldn't have had a better beginning than that.
Okay.
That is a brilliant training ground. There, the thought process is how many case laws you know, many how many provisions you know, how's your understanding of the core law is. Now, the place I'm working at, EMLTC, their legal knowledge is presumed, and therefore now we are looking at solutions which are business efficient. So I think that's the change in thought process.
Right, right, makes sense. So, would you say that your legal landscape, getting a bit of knowledge from India, then going for an LLM, then coming to UAE, that was the right path to go about it? Because the question over here is the debate is between doing an LLM right after undergrad or getting some work experience and then doing an LLM. So, which one do you think is better as per your experience?
You do LLM, whoever needs to do LLM, do LLM. At the point where you feel that the knowledge that you are able to gain is kind of plateauing,
Got it.
So the first few years that you graduate, your knowledge will be like this. Second, third, fourth, fifth, 6 years goes here. At this point, whatever, this stage can come at any point, can come in the second year, can come in the third year, can come whenever.
Right.
But the point at which you feel, oh, it'll come from inside, Ria.
Makes
It'll
sense.
come from inside. At the point when you know that, okay, I have enough money, or I'm sure to get a scholarship, by the way, or I really, really need to know this. I need to take it to the moment you reach the comfort zone. That's the moment you go.
Got it. Got it. That's great
Because
advice.
life begins at the end of the comfort zone.
That's very true. That's very true. So you've published extensively on various topics. You are what you call a thought leader on LinkedIn. So how do you identify emerging areas for your writing and research, and how do you go about them? And what is their importance?
There's an update almost every week. There's plenty to write.
That's very true.
There is plenty to write about. In fact, I need to speed that up.
Okay.
So right now I'm writing briefings, I'm writing stuff for the company, and also I write in English and based on whatever are the latest updates.
Right.
There are different levels of writing. One is the writing which is descriptive. This is the law. One is writing which is semi-scientific.
Right.
This is the law. Here is how it applies to this fact. This is what it looks like. This is what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the scientific writing. That's what law schools are more used to, footnotes and all of that.
Right.
And that's where you really go and crunch the law. You evaluate the law. Here you describe the law. Here you analyze the law. Here you evaluate the law. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Yeah.
Actually the way to go about it. So how important do you think are these publications, these writings?
Right. So this level writing is quick and dirty, good for your marketing.
Okay.
This level writing is where your clients understand and will be able to appreciate. But remember, like what we spoke earlier, the clients are mainly the finance guys.
Right.
Because they take care of tax. We are lawyers.
Right.
But there's not that much difference, so don't worry about. At this level, you're trying to give the client a solution.
Got it.
Without all the complicated footnotes, etc. At this level is when you're actually looking at it scientifically. Here you're talking to your peers. Here you're talking to your clients. Here you're doing marketing.
Got it.
All are important depending on what the business need is.
Makes sense. I think that's some great advice. So let's go back on the topic of networking that we were discussing earlier. Could you give around 3 to 4 important tips quickly that would help our guests learn networking better? And how do they continue in maintaining a relationship?
Focus, Ria, focus on giving.
Got it.
Focus first on giving. When we are speaking or when you're speaking with anyone, don't focus on what you can get from them.
Okay.
Now you are in the second year and you are thinking, okay, I might need an internship, I might need advice, I might need XYZ from whoever in
Right.
the legal industry. But then if you're doing that, you're like any other second year, right?
Right.
The way that you differentiate from the others, from your friends, is by asking, hey, what can I give? Like the line of questioning that you ask people in this podcast.
Right.
When you actually ask about that and when you ask about what their dreams are, what their challenges are, what their opportunities are, how do they see the industry? I'll forward you some material about this also. I'll give a link with different, material. You can share that.
That's great. Thank you so much for that.
That's when you will really be able to network very, very well. And then, the thing is that in law school, they actually don't teach networking very well.
They don't. I think it's very essential.
And our industry is based on reputation. We are not doing coding behind a computer, right? Our industry is literally based on reputation. It's the only thing that we have because we are not even allowed to advertise.
Yeah.
As per Bar Council rules.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we have is our word. And therefore, and many times what happens is that, tell me if you face this in law school. If, let's say, there's a guy who likes to go for conferences, has already picked a subject that I want to do whatever, arbitration, I want to do corporate, I want to do tax. So he starts going for these events. Sometimes what happens is some people kind of crab mentality the way down.
Of course.
Why are you? Kya ukhad lega? Whatever it may be, right?
Yeah.
When that happens, then probably that guy who normally would want to do it will also take a step back. Job to mil hi jayega, whatever it may be. But when you actually do networking in a way in which you genuinely and authentically try to see from the other person's point of view what they need, what their challenges are, what their outlook for the industry is, and what your network can give for a good connection for him. You do that over and over and over and over and over again. At one point, you will start seeing the benefits coming back to you.
That's great. That's great. Focus on giving, not getting. Make it a two-side relationship. Explain to them how you are also important for them as well. Not just them being important to you.
Right. Now, let's take your example. You're in the second year, so you admittedly don't know the law all that much.
Right.
You have 3 more years of law school and then an unlimited years of practice pending in your life.
Right.
So you are in the learning stage right now, and indeed we are all in the learning stage. That's our profession is. So you may not be able to explain. Let's say you meet a lawyer in a birthday party. Let's say, you're in this party and you meet this one lawyer, and in your mind, you might be thinking, hey, what can I give this guy? I can only ask him for an internship.
Right.
I can't give it. But no, you still give him questions in light of the questions that have been asked in this podcast. And then when you do that over and over and over again, at one point, that guy will actually open up. And how he will open up is saying that, hey, you know what, this is a challenge I'm looking for. Do you know somebody who is in this field?
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then, or maybe, I don't know, maybe the lawyer who you meet wants some sort of a case file automation. Turns out that your college mate, your classmate at NLU Jodhpur is a whiz kid. One of those guys.
Yeah.
You connect him with that. This guy gets an internship. You don't worry, you're definitely going to get yours. This guy gets his internship working over there. That guy gets his case file automation stuff done. But since you connected, you are high value now.
That is true. That's
do that
something to
over
keep
and
in
over
mind.
and over again. It'll come back to you.
That's something that's very important. That's important to keep in mind. So, as we reach our last few questions, you were recently awarded the Leading Lawyer of the Year in the Law Firm Award, which is very prestigious. Congratulations. Could you share more? Could you share with us more about this recognition and what was the sequence of events that led to this achievement?
They reached out to me and they wanted me to actually provide a small explanation about myself based on which they gave scorecard, and then I got to know that this is the award I'm getting. So I went for the award and I received it. And what made it even more special was that a colleague of mine, Adina Civilius, she also came and joined me and supported me. So I'm very much honored. And I also got to do a lot of networking over there also. Got to meet a lot of people, got to learn a lot. There were some really good conferences about AI, about automation.
Wow.
So it was very, very informative.
That's great to know. So we reach our last final question. What is the key message you'd like to give to students who are considering studying abroad but have some reservations?
Contact me if you have a reservation. I'll speak to you.
That's great.
I mean, just don't be so much, because can you give me an example of what the reservation might be?
I think the reservations can be varied from cultural differences, financial differences, getting a job after that, because I think the employment we're going through an employment freeze at the moment, so that could be a little difficult. Those are certain reservations which I think people may have from what I've heard.
I understand. So let's take them one at a time. Cultural reservation, that you handle it, and that's not a big deal, Like, let's say you want to target the UK, learn everything about the UK that you need to,
Right.
Pick your favorite football team and your favorite cricket county team, support them, join the clubs, whatever, figure it out. Not a big deal. Financial reservation, yes, here, either work the number of years that you need to and then go for it, or navigate your way through such that, based on what we discussed in this podcast, such that you are actually getting exposure in a way which will be eligible for you to do a scholarship.
Makes sense.
Either way, figure it out. The third one was whether you will get a job.
Right.
Here also, right from the day one, when you reach there and you're still trying to figure out your way through in the new country that you're in, the universities typically have these events,
Yeah.
So, or they will invite somebody over, make sure everything that we spoke about in this podcast, make sure that you keep on following that for every single person who comes and visits you. Do that over and over and over and over again. You'll get a job at the end of it.
That's some great advice.
I would say go for it, because, or even if you want to come back, that's also fine. But still make those relationships and then come back. Who knows, they might require help you.
Would you ever plan to go back to India and work there?
I
Would you prefer
probably
to?
might. Let's see. Maybe.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So, well, that brings us to the end of this episode. I want to extend a heartfelt thank you from Project LLM for sharing such valuable insights, such great advice that I've not heard from a lot of people, but it is important to know.
Thank you.
It
Thank you.
was an
Thank you.
absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ria. I really appreciate it. And I'll be forwarding material as
Please,
well as my
yes,
links and
that would be
everything.
great. Yeah.
So, open offer. If anyone wants to reach out to me, please do.
That'll be great. I mean, I think that's something, it's very less in this particular field. I've noticed that people actually that they want to help out, that they want to be open to people and take in suggestions, take in advice. I think that's amazing that you're willing to be there for people.
I wouldn't have gotten Project LLM had I not done that. So,
Very true, very true, very true. So, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for all your help. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope you found today's discussion as enlightening as I did. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow and leave us a comment. With this, thank you so much. This is Ria signing off.